So we have a special guest today, just created her first book. She's not only a mom, she's a wife, an entrepreneur who owns Grace and Grit LLC. She also is a woman of God, and she also has added author to that list as well. Let's introduce Dr. Jocelyn Fisher.
Thank you, Rashad Fisher.
Thank you for being here today, Jocelyn.
It's my pleasure. Have a nice setup here.
I know. I mean, you made a beautiful home for us here today, and I'm glad you were able to take some time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. All right. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about your early life, and then we're going to get into the book. But we really want to get to know you. I want you to be transparent as you can and let your listeners know how this came about and what your decisions were in behind some of the things that you were doing to make this happen.
Absolutely.
All right. So is there anything you would like to say before we get started?
No, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to even be here. So it's been a journey, as you know, as my husband, you walked alongside me for quite some time, the ups and downs. And so these last couple of years have just been, a walk of radical obedience, I should say, after years of being disobedient. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to just share my story and hope that it can minister and help other people who are walking similar paths.
That is great. You look beautiful today.
Thank you. You look handsome too.
What's for dinner? All right.
It's Friday. It's pizza.
Pizza. Okay. All right. So let's jump into this. I'm sure, your listeners want to know, about your early childhood and some of the other things that happened in your life and what prompted you to write this book.
Yeah.
So let's get into the questions.
All right.
If someone only knew the version of you today, what would they completely miss about your story?
If someone only knew this version of me, I know for a fact they would miss the struggles, all of the things that I had to endure, chose to endure through bad decision making, a lot of the immature moves that I've made, that we all have made throughout the course of our young adult lives. And so if someone only met the Dr. Jocelyn Fisher today, I think they would miss a lot of the pits that I was in, the deep graves that I chose to dig myself in. And so all of that, though, really has played a vital part in building up this version of me that people, sometimes admire, sometimes get inspired by. But I think it's really our mistakes in as much as our accomplishments that make us who we are. And so as much as people and I have tried to hide those parts of my life, I think this is now the time that I am more bold in stepping out and being able to share my testimony so that God gets all the glory. And so I'm no longer ashamed of those things that I went through. So I really do want people to get to know me on a deeper level so that they too feel compelled to walk boldly in their purpose and not be ashamed to tell their stories as well.
Okay. Well, let's just jump right into it. So, I mean, with you being so accomplished, you doing some of the things that you've done in your life, accomplishing your goals and, things of that nature. What's something you went through that people would never expect that's happened to you in your life?
I think a lot of the blackouts, to be quite frank.
When you say blackouts, what do you mean? So we're going to be 100 right here.
Right. So when I talk about the bad decisions that I've made, a lot of it has stemmed from, alcohol abuse and drinking.
Yeah.
And so while we going through our college years tend to think that that's cool and it becomes a part of our culture and a part of the societal norm, I think a lot of people wouldn't know necessarily how deep I was into drinking unless they really, really knew me personally. So a lot of the blackouts, a lot of the shame that came from those blackouts, you know,
So basically, I don't mean to cut you off. Are you saying that, like, were you an alcoholic?
I I never subscribed to the idea of being an alcoholic, and I would actually surrender to going to AA meetings. And when they have you introduce yourself to say, hi, my name is Jocelyn and I'm an alcoholic, I would say that, but I would never subscribe to that notion because something in me just didn't want to identify as the problem that I struggled with.
So you actually went through that process, but you never spoke those words, saying,
I did speak those words, but it was something in me that just felt troubled by saying I'm an alcoholic.
mm-hmm.
Even though I, you know, exhibited a lot of the characteristics of being an alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic. When he passed away, he was 25 years sober. And so while people may think that, and it studies show that alcoholism can be hereditary and it's genetic, I never saw that side of him. And so deep down, I knew that there was some kind of dependency there. And so that's the reason I would speak those words in those meetings to say I'm an alcoholic, because I was sitting amongst people who shared some of the same stories. And so I didn't want to come off better than the people that I obviously needed to be in that same room with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, part of me did subscribe to saying, okay, yeah, I'm struggling some of these same struggles as they are, but I just never really wanted to identify as that issue because I thought that there was so much more to me than alcoholism.
But you do think, like, your father having that same issue, it had something to do with you too.
I think so. Like I said, even though I
You didn't see it.
even though I didn't see it, yeah, there was something obviously that triggered that gene in me to just, become dominant and stay dominant so many years of my life. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's rewind a little bit. Let's start kind of like early childhood. What was your childhood like?
I think I had the perfect childhood.
The Huxtables?
A lot of people do say that our family is like the Huxtables.
That was my first impression when I met you all.
Why was that your first impression?
Because I mean, y'all, you brought some of the stuff from your family to our family as well. But like we didn't sit down and have family dinners together.
Mm-hmm.
We would grab a plate, go sit in front of the TV, and watch some football or something on your own. You eat when you want to eat.
Yeah.
But then you brought kind of this structure to our family. Like, no, we sit down at a certain time and eat together.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to that,
Yeah.
So.
No, my mom wasn't having that. So even though, and this is again going back to the image that I had of my dad, whatever he had going on at work that day, he would make it a point to come home for dinner. And so, yeah, we would sit around the table, at 6 o'clock, eat dinner. We would watch the Huxtables, the Cosby Show. At dinner, or after dinner, I should say. And so we gathered around for holidays. Our extended family got together either at my aunt's house, my grandma's house, one of my uncle's houses, our house. And so, yeah, we were a version of the Huxtables. And so a lot of that, did matriculate into my adulthood for the better, I should say.
And let me make a correction. Like, we didn't have that structure of, sitting down, but I had a great, loving family environment. My mom's sitting right over there. But yeah, I just want to let her know.
Of course, that's obvious because, I chose you. And so there was obviously a lot of values that I saw.
But I mean, it wasn't really, I don't think you really had a choice.
Yeah, I did. Okay. And so a lot of those things that I saw in you, like your giving heart, your commitment to your family, your children, you obviously were brought up with the values that, while you may not have been Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable, you were somebody who exhibited some of that same loving nature. And so, yeah, you don't necessarily...
Thanks, Mom.
You don't necessarily have to come from a two-parent household to be obviously a wonderful man, a wonderful husband, or a wonderful wife and mom. So, yeah.
All right, staying there.
Mhm.
Let's move on to your siblings. So,
Yeah.
how did your brothers influence, or your brothers and sister influence who you are and how you became this person or this version?
Right. So I'm the baby of the family. I have an older sister. I have three older brothers. And so growing up, my my second to oldest brother, Grip, who's no longer with us, he was a direct opposite of my younger brother, Drew, who was kind of like the lover boy growing up. You know, he was never not in a relationship. He was never not, loving on some woman.
Who
And
this Drew?
Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at him and how he interacted with his relationships, that determined for me the image that I wanted my boyfriend and my future husband to be, because I wanted somebody just as committed to me as he was to his girlfriends. I wanted my boyfriend to dote all over me, to make me number one. Um,
Have you received it?
I definitely
Okay,
have.
continue.
And so, by contrast, Grip, he obviously had the biggest heart ever, but he wasn't somebody who showed emotions. I can probably count on one hand how many times he's told me he's loved me. Probably two fingers how many times he's told me he's loved me. But he demonstrated his love in action. And so he was the one who had the foul mouth, even though Drew definitely has a foul mouth too. But he was the one who showed the tough love. And so he was the one who listened to more rap. Drew was the one who listened to more R&B. And so that's where my love from music really came from. I love rap just like I love R&B. More into gospel now, but I still listen to all of those genres.
Mm-hmm.
And Shell, my big sister, she was really the gold standard for me growing up. We didn't
How so?
necessarily have the best relationship all the time
Yeah,
growing
we're
up.
gonna get into that too.
Yeah, but Shell, she was the one who I thought was so pretty. She was the one who always had so many friends. She never had trouble, finding a boyfriend and making her boyfriends love her. Then Jay, he was the one who was always in the background. And so while he came into our lives when I was probably in middle school. And it's so funny because my mom loved on him so much that I didn't even know that he was my stepbrother. And we never used the word stepbrother in our house. I didn't know that he wasn't my full brother until like high school.
And you go into detail about that in the book.
I do.
Okay.
I do. But yeah, Jay, he played a huge part in my childhood too, because he was just as committed to his one and only girlfriend, now wife. And so I saw some of those same characteristics that I saw in Drew and Jay.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you say that because it gives me an idea of, just we're going to get into the book, but I'm just saying, just reading it gives me an idea of what shaped you and the person you are today. And I can appreciate your upbringing and, Mom, Miss Beeman, and Mr. Beeman for creating such a beautiful creature.
Yeah, it was a rough journey, and I didn't necessarily pick up on all the lessons right away as fast as they would have wanted me to, but I think they did good.
Yes, we appreciate them.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
All right. So when did you start realizing that there were bigger systems at play in your life? So I mean, stuff outside of your control.
Um, so I talk in my book about me having to write a letter. My dad coming to me and asking me to write a letter for his equitable pay, to be quite frank. So he had been serving as gas foreman and built his way all the way up to gas superintendent, water and gas superintendent. And so essentially he was in charge of the entire city of Vicksburg's water and gas department. And so his predecessors who had served in that same role
So, I mean, just kind of give people a clear understanding. I know the store you're going into. So
Hmm.
we're all in Mississippi, just to give people like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
idea
yeah.
of where this is located, Vicksburg,
Vicksburg,
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
So, I
Hmm.
mean, you can just kind of picture maybe the environment that may be going on, in Vicksburg. So,
Right.
just to set up a background for the
Yeah,
store.
and even though people have this stereotypical image of Mississippi, I didn't see any of that.
Neither did I, but
Yeah,
I think we can't say that it's not there, but I think
that definitely not.
yeah,
Definitely
it
not.
just lets you know, setting the scene for what you're talking about.
And so when my dad came to me, I think this was around 2010, 2011, and asked me to write a letter to the mayor to ask him for pretty much the same pay that his predecessors who were serving in that white predecessors who were serving in that same role were making. And so that was my first glimpse into there being larger systems at play, because what I think my mom and dad, who obviously had a much closer look at what the South actually was than I did, and I think they tried to shield us as much as possible from that, for better or for worse. That was my first real look at how there are systems still to this day, but definitely back then, that were at play that were designed to not really advance Black people as much as it did our white counterparts. And so, I mean, I can talk about the alcohol that was obviously at play in our house when I was a younger girl, but again, I didn't see that. So you have the racism that I knew was at play in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and you also had kind of the alcoholism that was also in play that again my mom shielded me from because I don't remember some of the things that she would tell me to this day. So those two instances were kind of in the background, but obviously building up something in me to where it would impact how I would navigate different situations going forward.
So that particular instance or that situation with writing that letter for your father, what was going through your mind? Do you think, okay, you've heard about systemic racism, but was this your first kind of encounter of of the bigger systems at play? Of trying to holding your dad back from
Yeah.
getting his uh, potential pay that he
Hmm.
should have.
Yeah, it was definitely my first real look at those kinds of systems of oppression that existed. And because I had gone through elementary school, middle school, I went to Warren Central Junior High School, which was
Ooh.
deemed the white school. And so I interacted with my white classmates and my white friends, and I had gone to Vicksburg High School. I had transferred my freshman year to Vicksburg High School, obviously cheering, taking classes, being inducted into the honor society, hall of fame with my white classmates. And so I had gone through all of those different stages, not seeing, or maybe not being intentional about seeing
I think,
those
yeah,
different instances.
I had
Yeah.
the same experience. I really like people. I would tell people, that I meet later on after I left Mississippi that, yeah, I'm from Mississippi. Like, oh man, that's a racist place. I'm like, yeah, I can agree, but I've never actually witnessed that growing up. I never been, called the N word or things like that.
Hmm.
So, seeing that, it just kind of like, okay, I know Mississippi is racist, but I haven't
Right.
seen it. But I mean, it's just like you say, the bigger systems at play. They may not be out front. It's more in the background. It's more dealing with education systems,
Yeah.
uh, work, like your dad did. It's bigger than we see. It's not really out in the front like it used to be.
And it's funny that you should say that because my mom and dad, I know, definitely shielded us from that, but it was also the educational system and how that permeates what's going on nationally, because I don't know if you did, but I in junior high had to take, Mississippi Studies. And that is a class that's literally designed to teach you the history of Mississippi. And so just thinking back, so much of what I have learned since graduating college, it was never taught to me about the own city and state that I grew up in, like the riots, the Vicksburg riots in 1874. So much of those ugly parts of our history were intentionally kept from us, and I think that played a part too. The collegiality between us as white students and Black students, because we weren't confronted with those ugly truths. And so when we're blinded to it, ignorance is bliss. So that fostered an environment of bliss between us.
Yeah, I think we could do like a whole nother,
definitely
podcast on just Mississippi alone and growing up in Mississippi. But yeah, I mean, it's so much rich history there that, we didn't really get taught in schools. I really wasn't the best student, so if they did teach it, I probably
You were
didn't.
absent that day?
Oh no, absent-minded probably, because I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just thinking about some of the stuff. I don't remember taking a Black history class, but I did have like some influential teachers like Miss Fisher. She's always made sure that we knew our heritage and make sure that we stayed true to ourselves. So I loved her for that. But yeah, I think that's just a whole different section we could go into and just talking about some of the things like Medgar Evers and all other
definitely
rich history that is there.
Another time.
Yeah. What was one of the hardest seasons of your life?
The hardest season by far of my life was the season that propelled me into the season that I'm in now. So the season that immediately preceded where I am now is when my oldest brother, or second to oldest brother, Grip, passed. And so, and it's so funny, and I guess we'll talk more about this later on, but when we're doing well, me and you, like in 2022, you had just retired from the military. And we were leaving Arizona and we were coming here to Frisco. And so, there was like a 2-month gap in between, not 2 months, 2-week gap in between us getting out of Arizona in our own post housing and moving to our rental home in Frisco. And so we were in Vicksburg, and Grip, he passed out and had a stroke in 2022. And so that prompted a year-long battle from his stroke, getting infections, being hospitalized, drifting off and not really coming back to us. And so for a year, we just kind of watched him fade away. And so, and I had already been struggling with alcohol, obviously, but that just exacerbated the problem. And so it had gotten so bad to where, fast forward 2 weeks and we move into our home, and, I was waking up drinking and going to bed drinking, and throughout the day drinking if it was before 5 o'clock. So I was in and out of blackouts during the day. We're doing so well on the surface, but I'm still over here struggling with these things. And so once he finally passed away in 2023, I had a wake-up call after I turned 40. And so, God was just like, okay, how many times do you want me to keep bringing you out of things before you start, A, making better decisions, and 2, start witnessing to other people who are going through the same things that you're going through. You're on your way to having this beautiful life, and I'm showing you glimpses of the abundance that I have for you, but you're still recklessly going about your days. And so that was the worst season of my life, just because I had come to my breaking point and the culmination of, okay, let me just finally stop drinking altogether, because I had gone through 7 months, 8 months, 9 months without alcohol. So I knew the fight that I was in for it to finally stop drinking, but it was just so hard because of the level of dependency that I had developed for that thing. And so that was by far the worst decision of my life. There were many leading up to that, but that would be the worst.
So what was different about this time? What made you decide, okay, this is it for me? I need to make a change for the better.
So honestly, it was Aiden. And you know, he was just starting. If I could have a tissue.
Yes. Okay. And you, Aiden was the decision.
Yeah, he was my guiding light. He was just turning 15, and he was just starting high school. He would be just starting high school when I finally decided to, you know, back up. I was in the hospital.
You're gonna make me cry.
So don't cry, because we never gonna get through this if you cry. After my 40th birthday, where we had this whole bash here and had a really good time from what I remember, I was hospitalized, not because I passed out, but I was trying to stop drinking. And my body was just like, what are you doing? Because it had developed, you know, such a high dependency on alcohol to the point to where when I actually tried to stop, it was just too much for my body. So you took me to the hospital, and very nice hospital, by the way, nice staff, good food. But when I was in the hospital for those 2 days, I had a realization that, you know, Aiden was he was about to start high school. And so while I had managed to be present for him throughout the course of his life, you know, helping him with science projects and book reports and all those things that a present mom should, I realized in the hospital that I really just wanted to be the type of mom that he deserved. And whatever memories that he may have had of me from those reckless decisions, I wanted to make sure that he had a high school career where his mom was fully present, no matter whether it was 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. I just wanted to be better for him initially.
And you have.
Thank you. So to be quite frank, you know, Aiden was the reason ultimately. And he was the reason, you know, all the other times too that I had gone 7, 8, 9 months without alcohol. But this time it was different because, you know, God had shown me this life of abundance that he had for me that I was, you know, really at risk of losing. And that included you, it included Aiden, it included, you know, my career. And so that was the point for me that said, okay, it's enough. And it was bigger than me, really, because when I surrendered to God, God gave me a responsibility to help usher other people through some of the same things that he had pulled me out of.
Yeah, and I know, well, I appreciate you, first of all, you know, being as transparent as you are, and, you know, telling your story. I know us going through that situation, people may not have known, you know, what we went through and what you went through, because
you were amazing, by the way.
You were amazing. You keep yourself, you know, for the public, or, you know, for your family and friends, you keep it together. And I think a lot of people do that. They don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody has issues that they're going through. And, you know, you just telling your story and putting it out there, letting people know that, you know, Everybody has issues, and then you can turn things around. It's not too late. So, and I appreciate you actually putting your family first, and actually, I know you didn't like it before when I used to tell you, but I don't think it really had anything to do with alcohol. It was just I used to say, when we first met, I used to say what?
You used to, when I would ask you, why do you love me? Or why do you choose me every day? It was some variation. I would ask you both questions, and your response would be, because I see your potential.
I see your potential. I didn't mean anything bad by it, but I think you
Yeah.
got kind of tired of it.
And I'm like, well, okay, what about me now?
Yeah.
Why are you choosing me today?
And now I would not say that. I wouldn't say I see your potential.
What would you say today?
I've seen your potential, and I've seen it come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I know that, I think I still can say that you have more, potentially to do more.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think you've blossomed into what I saw you becoming in my wife. So.
Yeah. He ain't done with me yet.
No. Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Thank you again.
When did things start to change for you when you made that shift? And how did they start to change?
When did things start to change for me? Mm-hmm. I think it was at the point where I made the decision to just be better. Things start, and it was a rough road, because anybody who has removed a vice of any kind from their lives know how difficult it is, especially those first few days and few weeks, to go without it and to just unlearn a whole bunch of lessons that you've mistakenly taught yourselves.
What kept you? I know you said Aiden, but as you're going through that and you're saying, okay, I'm through with this, I've made this change. Aiden, I need to be here for Aiden. How was it? Did it get easier as you went on, or how was it really, really tough for you at first?
It was very tough at first, but ultimately, because I am God's child and He knows me in and out, He knew that I wasn't strong enough to just, by my own free will, just do the right thing right away. So I would go to God literally every single morning and just say, help me. Mm-hmm. There's still this yearning in me to drink sometimes, especially when you and I bicker, or when things just don't go my way, and my instant reaction would be to drink. I would ask God to help me through those situations, reframe my mind for the day so that I wake up with the spirit of gratitude for all that I have. And so when I started to shift my focus to one of gratitude instead of paying attention to the thing that I no longer have, it literally, to your question, became easier, because He gives you so many things to be grateful for. You can't even spend a day thanking God for every single thing if you're intentional about being grateful. There's so many things around you to be grateful for. The air that you breathe, the roof over your head, the food in your refrigerator, the clothes on your back, the car in your driveway, the children that are healthy, the potential of tomorrow to be better. All of those things factored into me just shifting my posture to one of gratitude. And so once I became intentional about that and waking up every day, going to God, asking for His help, and then, saying thank you for this day, thank you for yesterday, it definitely became easier.
Did you, for people that's going through similar situations, that involve alcohol or whatever type of issue they may have, did you do it alone? Did you have like a community? Did you go to people that had held you accountable?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Or was there, a group of people that supported you?
Yeah, I definitely had a community. I come from a huge, beautiful family, but not even my extended family knew the depth of my issue, my problem. So of course I had my mom, of course I had you, I had, my sister, my brothers. But one person on a more practical and basic level was Dee,
Who's D?
D in AA terms was my sponsor. So I would meet with D either in person or over the phone, over Zoom, and she would literally feed me tools of affirmation. And because she was also a recovering alcoholic, she knew exactly what I was struggling with. So while you can have all of the love and the want for me to stop drinking, if you haven't struggled with addiction or dependency or anything like that, it just doesn't hit the same as it would coming from somebody who had walked those same shoes. And so, yeah, I definitely had a community. She literally would speak the things, if they didn't already happen to me in eliminating alcohol from my life, they were bound to happen to me. And so she prepared me for the things that I would be confronted with. And when I would talk to her about you, she allowed me to do that a couple of times, but she turned it right back to me, because you weren't the one, even though I put it off on you irritating me, that drove me to drink sometimes. It was my problem that I had to overcome. And so she was the one who really started making me take a look in the mirror and focusing on me. And that also became hard, because I'm like, okay, when I actually got into a solid rhythm of doing the work on myself, and I'm looking at you like, well, he ain't doing no work. I mean, why am I over here doing all this work and he's the same?
I'm good.
But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, it would take an intentionality for me to just stop looking everywhere else and focus inward on me at the work that I needed to do. Because people in your life, whether it's your spouse, your kids, your parents, they're not the ones who are responsible for your happiness. So that has to come from within. And when I started learning how to focus on me and not throw things at you as the reason why I was still struggling or having setbacks, it became, a daily hard walk, but it definitely became a lot easier to go through that with the community that I had.